All right, this is going to be another episode of Film Fort. This one's a special green episode for. Do you know what the film is, Tom?
Yes, yes, I do. It is wicked.
Yeah, it's the Barbie beating, gravity defying Broadway musical, Wicked. Exciting.
Hmm. What did you think of it?
I've got very mixed opinions on it because there was some
I thought
things
you'd have
I really liked.
mm, I thought you'd have quite strong opinions on it.
Well, I have strong
I think,
opinions on everything, so it sort of goes without saying.
yeah, I mean, Wild Robot, we were both fairly, not strong opinioned. My opinions on this one, um, my opinions aren't that strong on this one. I quite enjoyed it.
It's a
I just
weak
thought it
tea
was
opinion.
quite good. Yeah, I know. Just thought it was quite enjoyable.
Are
I'm
you
not a
a
massive.
thespian?
What do you
A
mean?
thespian? Uh, in the Americas, well, here as well, I imagine. A thespian is a theatre going boy, a theatre lover,
No,
a lover of the
no,
theatre,
not
a Shakespearean
not
theatre
at all.
hag. Um,
Um,
no, so you're not a theatre boy.
I
I am a theatre
well,
boy,
you
but not
are.
for
I
this
have,
garbage musical.
I have experience going to the theatre. Um, Mostly at university. I'm watching a lot of the university drama people do theatre.
Oh,
And then I spent a bit of time hanging around with those guys as well, which sort of completely put me off musical theatre because it's if you go to a drama person party or social event, it's all the music they listen to, those theatre kids. It's just always musical theatre.
so you were in these
Um,
parties, and then it was let the bodies hit the floor by Drowning Pool, but, and then it's Defying Gravity. That's the next song, is it?
yeah, yeah. It's just they and and the overzealous way they all act when about musical theatre, it sort of put me off
Mm-hmm.
musical theatre
Here's
and
here's my
led to a bit
question.
of stigma against it.
Yeah, stigma
Yeah, go on. Mm.
is Defying Gravity better than Let It Go? No, is the answer.
No, yeah, I agree.
And you feel like it kind of should be because Defying Gravity came first, as far as I know, and it's a bit
Mm.
rubbish. Hot take: it's
Well,
the worst part of the movie.
that is a very hot take. We
It's a
well,
spicy
well,
hot
they
take.
did. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Defying Gravity is one of those where I heard it so much. Said that in my GCSE music when I was studying.
Was that the
Different
go-to?
songs.
Was it because when she starts flying, then the note gets higher or something, some bollocks like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's oh, I've forgotten what it's called, where the way she sings reflects the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
in Defying Gravity. Um, Not very subtly. And so yeah, we decided to do that. And I remember a lot of the girls in the class were like really excited for this musical song, and I was like, oh, I quite like a couple of musicals. And then I listened to Defying Gravity, and I was like, this is really annoying.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I prefaced a bit there, saying it was a Barbie beating film. I'm sure the numbers are probably not actually beating, and probably somewhat similar. But what I'm alluding to there is this seems to be targeting the exact same demographic and doing really well as a result.
yeah.
Mm. I was
Um,
talking to some people and they said because there was a few of us who had seen it, a few of us guys who had seen it, and we weren't giving it a bad review, but we were sort of saying 3 out of 5, middle of the pack. And
yeah.
the ladies, on the other hand, were giving it quite high reviews, and I think that was an interesting thing of just the target audience. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think maybe just not necessarily, even though I do love musical theatre, maybe just not quite targeted at me.
I I sort of thought that. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was done well. It's not really my sort of thing. I do, and I know a lot of people are saying because it's a part one. Wicked is 2.5 hours is the full stage play, and the first act is an hour and a half, and that's what this was. But
Except
this
this
was
was
2.5 hours.
longer than 2.5. It was like 2:40. Oh, it was long. It was a
Yeah,
slog.
yeah, yeah. And people are saying, "Oh, it fits that runtime. It doesn't drag." And I'm like, well, it did for me. There were points in the middle section of this film where I was like, okay, this is dragging. Like, can we stop ogling over the really attractive guy for like 40 minutes and get back to the plot, please?
Yes, I think that would be
Um,
a point of dragging. I didn't think it necessarily dragged that
if
much. I think it was just like,
yes,
but I sort of, it was quite long. It wasn't that necessarily that it
yeah,
dragged. It was just I was getting tired. You know what I mean?
me too.
Yeah. It wasn't
Yeah,
like there wasn't any bit where you were like, okay, can we just cut this whole scene? But like you say, there was just enough slow bits where you're sort of like, okay, was you know,
yeah.
hurry this up.
It's just let's yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not. It doesn't kill it. Like it's still good. There were just points where I was a bit like, oh, and then it got my interest again. One thing I want to ask you is you said that Wicked is an absolute garbage musical.
Yeah.
Um, we can't we can't walk away from that and not dwell on it again. Have you seen it?
No. So
The stage play? No.
here's my thing with this. I've only ever heard people talk about two songs from this show, right? As songs in and of themselves, and that's Defying Gravity and Popular.
Yes.
Neither of those songs are remotely close to the best songs of like most Broadway shows of this level, right? Like this is a top 5 Broadway show of the last 20 years. And it's got two songs that are okay. Just
Yeah.
purely on the music. If you compare it to I'm thinking of the ones that aren't adaptations. I'm trying to eliminate them out. But if you think of Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen, there's probably some other big ones that have come out.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm not a very good muse for this because I don't really like musical theatre and I don't really like the songs I've heard from those. But I do get your point.
I just think it's a musical that suffers a lot from the Stephen Sondheim school of musical theatre, where so Stephen Sondheim, very foundational musical theatre writer, and I forget which ones he did, but I've heard maybe one Stephen Sondheim song that I like, and it's because he does a lot of this like, ba 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 ba
Mm.
that sort of like
Yes,
the song
yes,
takes 20
that
minutes to
sort
get
of
started and then it never goes
yeah,
anywhere.
especially in the sort of upbeat songs, there's like that specific sort of staccato like notes in the percussion which you've in the accompaniment which you sort of did this bum bum kind of. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I
So
was thinking, God, so many musical theatre songs sound like that, but I kind of like that sound. I've got
it's
nothing
it's
against that.
fine. It's just there were some songs. So I remember specifically a song with the head of wizardry or whatever she's called, Madame
Michelle
Moribel.
Yeoh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get on to the words malarkey that went on
Oh,
in this film, but the
yeah.
yeah, she starts singing this song, and it's like, are you still talking or are you singing? Because she starts singing for like a word and then carries on talking, and it's that sort of thing where I'm just like, there was for me two real, maybe three real like musical theatre songs or
Yes,
musical
yeah.
theatre numbers in this show, and it wasn't Defying Gravity because that keeps on dropping in and out of being a song, right? Like she flies
Yes, it
off
does, yeah.
and then she flies back and has another verse and then flies off again, and I was like, okay, but
I knew they were going to make such a big thing out of Defying Gravity because I thought an adaptation of a stage musical in which Defying Gravity is the most popular song, it's the most known song, and this film, in eking it out already, it's gonna ek out
and
Defying
it
Gravity.
does end Act One like this, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it does in the original one, but God, I knew they were going to eke it out, but it's about 20 minutes.
It's
It's about
really
20 minutes.
now we were saying
It's
that it
so
doesn't
eked
drag too
out.
much, but that bit drags
That
because
did. That
it's
did.
she does
I knew it
literally
was
come
gonna, but
back
it still
around
did.
like 4 times. She flies off and then she flies back and has another lecture, and then she flies
Oh,
back
gotta
again.
start again. And then, yeah. Yeah, it's like, I was just thinking at that point, um, I was like, God, I'm ready for it to be over. Because I remember when Defying Gravity started, I was actually getting a bit excited for Defying Gravity to be started, which the film's got to be either the film's doing something right, because I'm not a big fan of Defying Gravity, or I'm just ready for the film to end because I know this is going at the end.
You're like,
And
yes,
then,
defying gravity. You hear those first few notes, you're like, oh, sweet bliss.
oh, sweet bliss. And then I definitely was ready for the film to end because it took about, yeah, it was about 20 minutes of Defying Gravity. It's like, can't we just have the song without all the interruptions and then finish?
Yeah, you get it
Like, what's wrong with
in
that?
Evita as well. There's like one song that's not doesn't just drag. It's like don't cry for me Argentina, and then every other song is just well, we're gonna sing for a little bit and then we're gonna do some talking, then we're gonna sing for, and it's just like I say,
Yeah,
I do like musical theatre, but not like that.
because Defying Gravity, not broken up, is substantial.
It was really
Yeah,
long. Yeah. So
yeah.
for me, there was like the possibly three actual numbers are that weren't just sort of glorified dance numbers. Was the Wicked Witch is Dead, whatever
Oh
that
yeah,
song's
at the
called.
beginning.
No one mourns the wicked or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Which I couldn't hear a word of, which is something we'll get onto. But that was like a proper number. There
Mhm.
was even that was a bit stop start, but fair enough. The first song in a show usually is a bit stop start because you introduce the characters and you introduce the plot, and that's fine.
Yeah, you have
That's
a big
standard.
old song at the beginning, bit stop start. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you have this other song where she's singing about the wizard and me, right? Where she's singing about how she's gonna go and
Oh,
be friends with
yeah,
the Wizard of Oz.
yeah.
There was a big song. It was a bit odd because was she singing it in universe? Like people kept on looking at her, being like, "Oh, what a weirdo."
Yeah.
Is that because she's green, or is that because she's singing? Because if it's singing, then it's fair enough. Because she is sort of just singing at the sea about like a schizophrenic. You know what I mean?
I think it was because she was green.
I think that was
That
the thing
seemed
as
to be
well. But
that seemed to be their biggest hiccup.
it didn't seem. It seemed like those parodies of High School Musical. Where like Troy starts singing. Um, there was one that I think
Yeah.
SNL did where Troy comes back from college to the High School Musical, and he says, "I started breaking out into song, and people started looking at me like I was a weirdo," you know. And I was like, that's what
Yeah.
came to mind when I saw this. I was like, is she singing in universe? Because that's what it looks like. Is that they're all, what is this girl singing about? Anyway, so there was that one, and then there was Popular, which I thought was sick. I thought that was really good. Again, bit stop start, but
Yeah.
at least it was
Yeah.
like yeah. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I think it was
I
probably the
thought Popular
highlight
was
of
good.
Ariana Grande.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can think of a couple. There's the one where they really don't like each other, and they have a little song about not liking
Oh,
each
but
other. That
like
felt
that's the
like
thing.
a
They're
proper
just
song.
short. Can you remember how it goes?
Wasn't that short?
We hate each
No,
other
not
or
really.
something.
Yeah, not
They all
really.
just
And
sound
then
the
there
same.
was
I don't.
there was yeah, they've all got that bum 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 sort of
Yeah,
progression
they
in the
all just sort of
background.
start like that. Bum,
Yeah,
bum, bum.
yeah, they
I
yeah,
hate her.
yeah,
Bum, 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 bum. Just
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, classic stereotypical music theatre. And then there was the one with uh the handsome man from Bridgerton.
Oh yeah,
Um,
which was. Listen,
that was a
I really love that
substantial
actor.
song.
I really, for some reason, I am a big fan because he's been in a few other things I've seen, and he needs to stop singing because the singing
Mm,
was poor and it was in an American accent despite him being an Englishman.
yeah,
And you're like, well, but you were speaking in an English accent for the rest of the film, so why are you singing like an American? Was
yeah.
maybe someone told him to do that? I don't know, but it was outrageous because he's sort of talking in this sort of London. I'm from a prep school kind of voice. I'm a
Yeah,
prince from
proper
London.
posh. English, yes.
and then he's singing like an American. It was very jarring.
Yeah. Well,
So
some
this is why
English
I say
people
it's
do that.
a bit of a garbage musical, is because they just top load the show with lots of songs that all sound pretty much the same, and in terms
Yeah.
of actual good songs, it's minimal. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just when I listen to shows, they either, some of them sound similar. So like Hamilton, a lot of the songs will sound similar, but that's because they're a reprise of the same song 4 times in the show with different
Yeah.
things, and that's fine. But they have a distinct character. When it's this song reprise, you're like, oh, okay, it's about this thing. And so,
Yeah.
but they sort of all have a certain character to them, and that's got a lot more songs in
Yeah.
than this show does.
Well, that's all sung, which I'm not a big fan of musicals
Oh,
which
I
are all
love that.
sung.
That's my favorite kind.
Really,
But
really, all sung musicals.
yeah, well, the best ones. I don't know if you've ever seen Jesus Christ Superstar. We'll do it as a Film Fort retro at some point.
All right,
Um,
okay. No, I have not seen that.
but that's all songs all the way through,
Well,
and it's sick.
the way I was arguing with my colleague about this, or well, I was trying to argue. She was just like seeing that I was being pedantic and just like, yep, okay.
It's just a film, Tom.
Because
It's just a film.
yeah, because my yeah, I that happens a lot. I sort of say something controversial or just random to try and get a rise out of her when I'm bored, and she just knows how to handle me. She's like, "Yep, okay," and she just keeps going. But she's a big fan of musicals, and I was saying to her the way I see all song musicals. I know this isn't relevant because this isn't. I'm going to say it anyway. Is it sort of like for me? It's like an action film. If you had an action film and the whole, you like a bit of action in it, obviously, but
Yeah,
the
okay,
whole
I see where
thing
you're going
was
with this. Yeah.
start to finish, non-stop action. It's like action and singing. They're the spectacle part
So
of the
for
thing.
you, all
If it's
song
all
musicals are like the
spectacle, if it's all
Expendables.
spectacle, yeah. If it's all spectacle, it's all full on, like an action film where the action doesn't stop. It's just too much.
Yeah, but a
Whereas
good
I do like
musical isn't
some
all
music.
spectacle. It might be all songs. That doesn't make it all
Yeah,
spectacle.
yeah, I guess. But it's still a bit much for me.
Fair
It
enough.
feels like you should have the singing bits as
As
I don't
few
know.
and far
If
between as
it's
possible. But in
if
fact,
it's all
just
sung,
take the
then it's
singing out of
different.
this film. I think this film would have been better with no songs in.
Well, I do. Yeah. Well, no.
I want no
I,
songs. I want the wizard to be played by Michael Caine. And then
no. I
Elphaba to
like Jeff
be
Goldblum.
Kermit the Frog. And then Glenda to be Miss Piggy. And I think
Okay,
I've
so
just made a
Muppet
way
Christmas
better
Carol
film.
does have songs.
I've
Muppet
just
Christmas Carol does have songs, and it's got those in, and it's great.
but but would that not be an incredible film?
Oh yeah, if you put Michael Caine and the Muppets into anything, it's gonna be good.
Stop from being popular.
Right.
Miss Piggy doing
We should
popular.
probably
Pigula.
get back. We
Mm,
should probably get back to talking about the film.
no, it's not easy being green. No, I did not eat grass when I was a child. Anyway.
Right.
Right, so the way I thought we should break this film down is
Yes.
in 3 contexts. So
Okay.
the first context, I think we've sort of already done, and I think we're entirely unqualified to do, which is assess it in the context of the Broadway show and an adaptation of that. Now, I've not seen it.
Yeah.
You've not seen it.
No, neither. So we've probably done that as much as we could.
Yeah, everyone who has seen it seems to like it. They seem to like the adaptation. So fair play. Good job. Adapting something and the fans not hating it is a well played, because very few people can do it anymore. For some reason, every adaptation everyone hates. So well played. You actually adapted it.
Yeah.
Again, another parallel to Barbie. Very successful
Yeah.
adaptation, and well played. They're doing good with it. So we can tick
I
that
mean,
one off.
I've
Go
heard
on.
some people say, like my colleague who's been to see it on stage, she said this film was actually better. So
Well, I find
think
that
we can
unlikely.
say what than the
Listen.
stage musical.
It might have been better than the version they saw on stage, but Idina Menzel is kind of the GOAT. So, I don't know.
All right.
Her being relegated to a minor role in this film, I don't know. Fair enough. Whatever. The second context, I think we should discuss this in, and I think this one will, it's not a super in-depth talking point, but we should probably give it a little bit of headroom, because I need to talk about it so then I don't have to bring it up as a criticism of the film, because it's not really fair as a criticism of the film, but it really irritated me. So the context of this as a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. Right?
Well, yeah, it's sort of. Yep. Okay, we can talk about that.
So and the third one is just assessing it as its own film.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll preface a bit why it being in the context of The Wizard of Oz just grinded my teeth to oblivion. So, The Wizard of Oz is a film, the first Technicolor film. Interestingly enough, a golden piece of media.
Ever, is it?
Pretty sure it was the first film that was in color. In 1930 something. Yeah. So this film, and in it, Dorothy murders one fairy, witch, whatever, who was supposed to be like evil, an evil tyrant. She murders her immediately. Who is supposed to be the Elphaba's sister in a wheelchair. Who's like really nice, like the nicest person in the whole thing.
Is that character going to become the person Dorothy murders?
Supposedly, because so this is the thing, in the original film, that is Elphaba's sister. The Wicked Witch of the West, that's her sister. It's the Wicked Witch of the East, who gets killed by Dorothy with the house. Mm-hmm. So supposedly that's the same girl. So I'm not sure how we're going to turn this really pleasant character who was, she was just a fun side character. She was cool. Don't know how we're going to turn her into similarly evil.
Wicked Witch. Yeah.
Which brings us on to the next point. The Wicked Witch of the West is evil in the film. Like, there's no two ways about it. All the Munchkins, like, live under her oppression. It's not, it's not like she's, it's not like it's some misinformation campaign like they make it out in this film that, oh, actually she is good, but the wizard turns them against her.
Yeah,
she is evil.
Needs a scapegoat, yeah.
She does, like, kidnap people and takes them to her tower with the flying monkeys. Like, she is an evil character. So, and so I said this before watching it, and I prefaced this, and I was like, well, I think it's going to annoy me because it's just not, it's a classic 21st century thing of let's take this evil character and they were actually good and they're the misunderstood one the whole time.
Yeah.
And people were like, no, it's not like that. That's not exactly what happens, It's more nuanced than that. And as far as I can tell, that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
There's nothing I don't really understand what's going to happen in part 2 that's going to make her pure evil.
Yeah, I think the representation of the sort of works because you don't know that much about her, and to have her as this sort of superficial, glitzy character, I think is kind of fun and sort of. I don't think it necessarily doesn't work in comparison to how she's characterized in the original.
Yeah, I'd have significantly less issues with her. Yeah, I mean, here's an idea. Part 2. It turns out that she was actually horrible to her sister and to their father, right? How about this? Turns out that she was actually evil the whole time. She's the one who put her sister in a wheelchair. She's the one who then killed their mother or something. I
don't think it's going to.
It's not going to do that. But then at least it would be like, she was evil the whole time and she's been gaslighting everyone. It's not going to do that. But at least then that tracks with The Wizard of Oz. And then The Wizard of Oz, by name, I mean.
Yeah.
who was
He was
terrific
all.
in this film. Was terrific.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Goldblum. It's just
Sorry, yes, I
I
should
love
say his
him.
actual character name, Jeff Goldblum. Uh, was
He just
just
plays Jeff Goldblum and everything, but who
I
cares?
I know it, he. I mean, he was just Jeff Goldblum because the wizard. The point of the wizard in the original is that yes, he's not magical. He's from the same land as Dorothy. He's just a traveling salesman, and what he does is he brings a certain like panache and showmanship to this leadership position in the Emerald City. He's not
Yeah,
evil. He's just not really magic. And so Dorothy goes to find the wizard, and the lion wants courage, and the Tin Man wants a heart, and the Scarecrow wants a brain. And they go, right, if we can make it to the wizard, then Dorothy can go home, and everyone can get what they want. And then they make it to the wizard, and actually, he is exaggerated his credentials slightly, but equally he comes out. They find out he's not a real wizard, and he says, he's still a wise guy. He goes, "Oh, lion, you have courage. I don't need to give you it because it's always been there." Scarecrow, I can't remember what he says, but
yeah.
basically he just says, "You guys actually don't need these things." And he's wise. He's not magic, but he does solve all their problems, and then he helps Dorothy get home. Actually, does he help Dorothy get home? I don't know if he does, but he's not evil. He's just a
Linda
guy.
helps her go home, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's no place like home.
There's
Yeah.
no place like home. Yeah,
And so he's just a guy, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. That's all right.
it's not.
But he's in this. He is evil. He's like I don't know what is he supposed to be, Stalin? Like I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So what do you
supposed
think
to
about
be
this?
bad,
Go on.
isn't he? What about how it takes the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I've not really got any strong opinions on that. I sort of agree with you. And I guess you're sort of arguing that, if it's any film and this is taking it and doing something different with it, then maybe it's not as bad. But this is the Wizard of Oz. It's like a sort of almost sacred classic film, isn't it? Um, and so I don't know. Maybe it's not great for it to take it and sort of be a bit unloyal to it. But yeah, I remember thinking a few things like this doesn't really add up with the original. It's like a sort of prequel spin-off thing, but it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't really pair with it. One thing I did think about it is, it starts off with Elphaba dying.
Yes.
I remember thinking, if she is really, really good, which she's perceived as being, and she does actually properly die, then this is really, really quite sad. I found that as a bit of a sad dampener upon the whole thing because
Yeah. It
it's
was,
all a story about her, overcoming these things.
and then being
It's
murdered
like
by like a
this is
14-year-old
because she's
with
been
water.
betrayed in a certain way and her best friend has just betrayed her. I was like, this is like pair this with the Wizard of Oz and what we know is happening at the end, and we take this narrative as it is, then this is horrible. It's really horrible.
Yeah.
And a bit horrible for a PG rated family fun musical.
Yeah. I think they're
That
relying on
was
the kids not
underlying the
having
whole
seen the
thing.
original. Um.
Yeah, but then it starts off and she's dead.
Yeah. Is she really
She's
dead?
melted.
Yeah.
Well, in Wicked, I don't know if she's really dead, but in The
In the
Wizard of Oz,
original.
she.
I'm
And if you've just watched Wicked Part 1 and the original, then yeah, she's dead as anything.
Yeah, dead as a doornail. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, it also just the reason why it grates me is, I mean, it's not just because it's like a sacred film. Like you can do what you want with old films, fair enough. But
Yeah.
it's just this thing of we're gonna take what is actually a film about. I mean, I couldn't really tell you what the witch represents in the original, but presumably something. It's a film that is metaphorical at its heart, right? I mean, the whole film is actually a dream inside of her head, made up of the cast of her family as these different
And the
people,
workers at her
right? And
farm.
it's,
Yeah.
you know, in a tornado, you know, like it's the whole film is a metaphor, and it's her discovering adventure and breaking out on her own or something. So this is the this is the film. It's not real, right? And a lot of this film to me felt like they didn't understand that
Oh no, yeah.
the Wicked Witch can be evil because she's not a real character. She's the horrible. She is what Dorothy perceives her mother to be, or something, right? It might not be her
It's
mother.
not.
It's
It's
the
not her
evil.
mum.
It's the
But
evil
it's
lady who
someone, yeah.
steals the dog. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I can't remember why she steals the dog, but it's that one. It's Dorothy's portrayal of this evil woman, who is an unpleasant woman in real life. You know?
Yeah. Why would she take Toto? That's well out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it felt like they were taking what is this like ethereal story that had some good deeper meaning going on and flattening it into this single world, it's actually like the MCU kind of view of everything. And I think that was it just grated on me a bit. But like I say, we'll discuss it on its own merits, and I'll be a lot more favorable. But all of it was sort of tainted by this thing that it rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you're right. It doesn't quite make sense in that sense because it was all her dream. But I think that because there is world building in the Wizard of Oz, and it sets up a world. Um, I think taking that world and taking it on its own merits, like, oh, this is a place. I don't know. It doesn't entirely make sense with the original, but I don't think I have that much issue with it expanding on that and sort of moving away from the it's all a dream thing. Um, but I do also see where you're coming from as well.
All right, so should we move on to just discussing the film on its own merits? I will do my best to restrict my analysis of it in relation to The Wizard of Oz because we've discussed it, made my views
You've got it
clear.
out of your system.
It's
Yeah.
not out of my system. It is going to annoy me still, and I'll probably bring it up again, but I will do my best not to.
Okay. Well, where do we begin?
Start at the very beginning. It is a very good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you say, we start with this opening monologue of she's dead. Gwendolyn is telling Jeff Goldblum that she's dead. Jeff Goldblum's like, oh, is she definitely dead? And we don't know. And then there's this big opening number where it turns out that Gwendolyn was once friends with the Wicked Witch, and it goes back in time to when they first met.
Yeah. And the Wicked Witch Elphaba, she's green, and she's received a lot of persecution for being green.
Mm-hmm.
She's a bit of a social outcast, and we're sort of given that backstory. And she's the product of her mum having an affair as well, which hasn't come into fruition yet, but maybe it will.
Yeah, it seems
in the second one.
So this part, sorry to just immediately jump into this. This was another thing that I wasn't quite sure what the point was, because it seems like they didn't really address her mother was was unfaithful. Like, that didn't really seem to be a point. No point did they sort of go, the reason why her dad hates her is because she's not his daughter.
Yeah, no, they never
Right?
they never had that, did they?
Which seems like the logical place to go, given that she's not his daughter. They went with she's green.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, he has such an adverse reaction to her being green, even though it's never said to us that he's made the connection that she's like she's a love child. You know what I mean? Like maybe if there was some law or some saying that was like, oh, if you have a child through an affair, they'll be green or something. You know what I mean?
Green with
Like,
envy, that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was like some little foundation of like an old nursery rhyme or an old folk saying that has this. And so even though he says that he doesn't like her because she's green, we know that
Yeah.
he doesn't like her because she's not his child. But that's never there.
Yeah.
That layer of analysis is not there. We see that she cheats and that she has Elizabeth with this other man. But then it's just never brought up again, as if that's not like the relevant thing. So yeah. But carry on.
And then it cuts to them going to a university, and that is where the main action of the film is.
Oh, Tom, you're gonna have to stop. You are gonna have to stop me
What?
and bring in some positivity here, because I'm just, the more I remember about this film, the more I just have to slate it. So,
I mean, I quite liked it, but I didn't like it passionately enough to hold you back.
all right, you might have to do some devil's advocacy then, because I did enjoy it. This is not to say I didn't enjoy it, but these things all annoyed me. The university setting I am sick of. So when I studied screenwriting, one of the things that our screenwriting professor told us was, do not set your things at a university and do not set them about a writer, because a writing student is only you. It's not relatable at all. It's you think it's relatable because you and all your friends are writing students at that moment. You're at university. As soon as you leave,
It's not relatable to everyone.
that's just an annoying story that no one cares about. So just immediately when it's set in a university, I just have that thing of like, I mean, if you compare it to Monsters University, which was highly endearing and really good, this one was very much a, oh, we're at school thing.
Yeah, it wasn't really uni. It was more of a school sort of vibe, wasn't it?
It was like a boarding school, and it was just very
yeah.
like, okay, so this is Mean Girls. I mean, this is
It
basically
was
what
like
happens
Mean
in Mean
Girls.
Girls.
Yeah, but not as good as Mean Girls.
So yeah, to me, it was like a bit of that, and we'll talk a bit about the conflicting tone of the different tones that exist in this film, because they didn't pick one. Similar to Barbie in that sense as well, they didn't pick a lane. And
I think I've sort of
go on.
covered my main issue with the tone, in that it is a fairly light sort of musical, but there is this sort of utterly dark, like really quite horrible thing hanging over it all.
Yeah. So if I'll just run through very quickly, and then we can get on to that dark scene. So Elphaba arrives with her sister. Her sister's the one enrolled to the university, but when is it Elphaba? I don't know. Elphaba arrives. She does some magic because her sister's being pushed in a wheelchair, and she doesn't actually want to be pushed because she can do things on her own, which I thought was a nice scene. I thought it was good that she was like, I am actually capable of moving myself around. You know, she's been in a wheelchair since she was a child. She is actually fine with that. But the teacher just assumes and then ignores her when she's telling her things. So I thought that was a nice scene. Side point. Elphaba then stops her with her magic, and the head of magic, who was refusing to take Gwendola as a student, even though Gwendola was really pushing for it and has all of Daddy's money, she decides that she'll take Elphaba on, who wasn't even enrolled at the university, to be her magic student. Then school nonsense ensues, and eventually Peter Dinklage, who is a goat, and he's a goat professor, he gets arrested for unlawful animal something or other. And so that's the dark underlayer. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So there's this whole sort of thing about animal rights, which in the world of Oz, animals are like, they speak, their intelligence.
Yeah, it's closest to like McCarthyism, animal rights. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're no less intelligent than us. And there's this whole thing about their rights being suppressed, which goes throughout the film. Um, and the idea that they shouldn't teach anymore, they shouldn't speak, they should be caged like they are sort of in our world.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's all this sort of Peter Dinklage talks about how there was like a drought in Oz, um, and because of that, animals, people need a scapegoat. People need something to blame when there's something really horrible going on. So they're turning to the animals, and that's sort of like a true sort of argument. Like when I did history, I studied the witch hunts, and I studied the idea that the witch hunts was during a really bad drought, a famine. It was a really bad time for the crops, and so people were angry. They needed something to blame, and so they turned to the witches. So I guess a sort of reference to the witch hunts in a film about a witch who ultimately gets witch
Mhm.
hunted is pretty intelligent. Um, a
Yeah,
little bit odd in a fun musical, but kind of
yeah.
clever.
I think as well, it is sort of clever, except for the fact that in that example, the reason why they turned against the witches, as far as I understand it, or the reason why they turned against people who claimed to they thought were witches, was because they needed an explanation for why the crops had failed, and so they said
Yeah,
there must have been a curse. Whereas in this one,
yeah,
they just seem to say we don't like animals. Grr. Like it's not they don't blame the
yeah,
animals for the drought. You know what I mean?
yeah. That's true. Whereas
It
the
feels like they
witches
didn't quite
were
understand what the point of
directly
that was.
blamed. Yeah, yeah. But I guess it is true that in a point of sort of turmoil. I mean, you could argue in today's society, it's probably what they want to draw
I think
parallels
that's
to.
probably it.
There's a
Yeah.
lot more anger, and there's a lot more hate, and there's a lot more people turning to sort of, you know, discrimination. And I think that's sort of what they were trying to show, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. I felt like this storyline. So this is and the reason why the tone I'm a bit critical of this as well is cuz the tone runs directly in counter to everything else that happens in the film. Like it's like I say the rest of the film is pretty much Mean Girls, but then there's a deep
Yeah,
political underbelly to it about like McCarthyist oppression.
yeah,
And it just doesn't it's like as soon as we get a scene about this, it just entirely drops the mood of the film for the 2 minutes that it's on, and then it goes back again. It just springs back like an elastic band. It's not. It's sort of not
yeah,
this ever-present danger. It's just a danger for the 5 minutes that it is a danger, and then they move on.
yeah,
Yeah, I felt like this was a worse done version of, in Narnia when they're all afraid of the White Witch
yes,
and all the animals have stopped being able to talk. When they come back in Prince Caspian and the
yeah,
animals can't talk anymore. They try to talk to the bear and the bear can't talk anymore because the humans have come and animals have devolved because there's no
yeah.
magic around and Aslan's not there or something. I forget. This
Mhm.
felt like a worse version of that.
I mean, alternatively, you could play devil's advocate and be like, whilst it does feel that it takes really dark turns, this idea of persecution is definitely at most at the center of the film because the whole thing, what's her name, poor Elphaba, just keeps getting like discriminated.
Yeah.
So I guess the themes that is very
Go on,
much
pushback. It sounds like you're more in favor of
center.
this than me. Go on, give me some pushback.
That was my pushback.
Yeah, that's very weak pushback.
What what more
You would not have stopped the
what do
animal
you want?
oppression in Oz with that kind of
You want a
pushback.
stronger pushback?
Yeah.
No, I probably wouldn't have stopped the animal oppression. Well,
Well, I
I
wouldn't
don't know
either.
what else I
Should
can
be seen,
expand
not
on
heard.
it.
If you ask me, get them in the
Like,
cages.
you know, I agree with you in that it's a tonal sort of inconsistency. It's a very, very dark thing, but also at the same time, Elphaba does spend the whole thing getting bullied and
She does.
discriminated
I think that is
against.
a good point you make.
So it is at the center of the film,
And
very much
that's
so.
where her whole motivation for helping them is.
Yes, yeah. So it sort of fits. It does fit together.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So yes, that's sort of interesting. But like I said, I think when you compare that to any scene with Ariana Grande in, it's so odd. I mean, one
Mm.
of those scenes where they're freeing. So Peter Dinklage just gets arrested and just disappeared, right? Soviet style. They
Yeah,
just move on immediately. You know, Elphaba was like,
yeah.
"Oh, is no one going to do anything?" The most powerful
No.
person in the room, right? She is objectively the most powerful person in the room. Everyone goes, "We're not going to do anything." Everyone stays seated, and she goes, "Oh, I guess not," and sits back down. And I'm like, "What?
And then,
Why
and
you
then she,
literally have the magical power to do what you want? He's only like 2 seconds. You know, he's only just been taken out of the
yeah,
room. You could go and catch them."
yeah. And what absolutely emphasizes your point even more is what happens 2 minutes later. Literally, barely 2 minutes later. So they've dragged Peter Dinklage
Yeah,
out. Peter Dinklage goat has been dragged out, and then they bring in a random. I've forgotten even what it is. It's only in it for this scene.
it's like a
A
tiger cub
random
or something, a
cub.
lion cub, something like
Yeah, in a cage, and she's like, "No, I draw the line at random cubs," and then she uses her powers and breaks it out.
that. Yeah, it's like
It's
why
like
didn't you do
what?
that for Peter Dinklage, someone you were friends with?
Who us as an audience has built up some sort of a connection for. It would, yeah,
Yeah, and because then,
yeah,
he goes, "Oh, thank you, Elphaba," you know, and that could have been the thing, and they release him. But then it segues from that, right, which straight up doesn't make any sense, but fair enough, whatever. So they save the little lion cub. Maybe she didn't feel like she was strong enough to save Mr. Dillerman, Dr. Dillerman,
yeah,
sorry. Uh, but she does feel strong enough to save this lion cub. You know, this is the most she can do at the moment. Fair enough, right? She is still
yeah,
a young person at this point, and she hasn't fully fledged out her powers. But then she takes them with the bloke. What's he called? Jonathan Bailey. That's the actor. Can't remember what the guy's called.
yeah. I
Uh,
can't remember.
the prince.
Fiero.
Yes, Fiero.
Yes, Fiero.
She takes him with Fiero. Like, let's the animal cub go. Just run off into the wild, and then is like trying to hit on him. And then we've just got another tonal switch where we're setting up a love triangle that had, like, it had
Didn't go
legs
anywhere, really.
when she wasn't just horrible to Fiero all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
we'll talk about that separately, but it was such a weird tonal contrast of, oh, I'm going to stand up for this because this is all wrong. This is disgusting.
yeah,
But then doesn't do
yeah.
anything. I don't know.
I agree. A couple of things I want to talk about in sort of the main school
Mm-hmm.
bulk of the film. Ariana Grande as Linda. Whilst tonally, you're right, doesn't work with the really dark stuff. She was funny.
She was so good. Yeah,
I
highlight
did
of the
think
film
she
for
was
me.
good. I thought her doing like a Regina George thing, like she was funny. She was good at that. She was very
It's
funny.
like just the bit at the
So fair
beginning where
play.
she goes, you know, she's like, I will do what I can to help solve your horrible affliction, and then everyone gives her a clap, and Elphaba, fair
Yeah.
enough, goes, she says like, oh, you're promising to fix a problem you know nothing about with skills you don't have. Thanks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a cool line. But then she walks off to her two friends. She's like, I was trying to be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was I
Yeah.
not?
That
Was I
that
not nice? Oh.
I saw parallels of her in people I've met. I've met
Oh,
people like that.
she's just. Oh,
um,
she was
but
so
yeah,
good, and just the whole
she
time.
was really good.
I think the first half she's a bit too Mean Girls, like one note. Like she's a bit too
Yeah.
just unlikable. But then
Yeah.
once they become friends and she's still pretty unlikable, that was when she hit her peak. Like,
Because like you sort of endeared by how silly she is, and Alphaba is as well. And
it's
so
just
like
by how shallow she is.
yeah,
There is no
yeah, it's
depth.
just funny.
Even at the end of the
Um,
film, it's not really clear that she's gained any depths. She just.
yeah, yeah,
uh,
but I quite like that. I thought that was funny.
I just. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
go on.
one scene which I actually thought was like moving and worked on an emotional level was I did like the scene where she sort of sets Alphaba up for like humiliation.
Mm.
And then Alphaba does. They're at a ball. Alphaba's got this hat on, which Glinda's given to her
Yeah,
to
they've been
sort
really
of
catty about
set
it.
her up
Yeah.
for failure. And then everyone just sort of laughs at her, and then she just does a dance by herself, like a silly little dance, and everyone continues to laugh at her. And then Glinda sort of joins in and does the silly little dance with her. And it's sort of the first time Glinda's ever done anything nice, and they have a bit of a moment.
Hmm.
I quite like that.
I did,
I thought that was quite
except
a good
for
scene.
how gruelingly long it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
It
was
was
sort of
so
captured in it.
long. Nah, go back and rewatch it. It's like 2 minutes that Elphaba's dancing on her own.
Yeah. But
It was grueling. I was like, this
but
isn't
you,
like so emotional. It's overwhelming me. I am now irritated.
you're now what?
I
Irritated.
became irate by how long it took. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I get the point. Yeah, yeah, but we can skip. It doesn't have to be this long. I
I
also,
don't know.
I that section. So Elphaba's already been an outcast, and Ariana Grande is the most popular girl in school, and so Ariana Grande has set up this Munchkin for failure. She's set him up with Elphaba's sister because
Mhm.
she's sick of him bothering her because he's in love with Gwendolyn. The Munchkin's in love with Gwendolyn, so she sets him up with Elphaba's sister so she can get rid of him. Elphaba then mistakes that for her being nice, so then helps her get into the magic class to help repay her. And then Gwendolyn finds out and goes, "Oh, maybe she's not so horrible. Oh my gosh, what have I done?" And then we get the
Yeah.
scene. And so, yes, she's doing a
Yeah.
nice thing. That's great. But there are two people there who have a vested interest in just being nice to her to begin with, right? So her sister stands by and does nothing. Doesn't even run away, right? Like, fair enough. Her whole thing is she just wants to be like everyone else. Fair play. She just
Yeah.
wants to fit in. So fair enough. She's maybe not gonna like stand up for her sister, but she would leave. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't just sit there
Yeah.
and watch my sibling, who is like very protective of me, be humiliated. I would at least leave.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
if I didn't have the strength to help, I wouldn't then just stand there and be like part of the gawking crowd. And the other
I don't
one,
know.
go on.
I'd feel like leaving is if I was in that position. I feel like for me leaving would be somehow worse than standing there because it's like you're sort of deliberately not all.
I guess what
I don't know.
I'm picturing is
Yeah.
her leaving in tears, like she's really upset about
Yeah.
what's
Okay.
happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so it's not like
Yeah.
Elphaba's like, oh, she's abandoned me. It's that, oh,
Yeah.
and you know, well, I know my sister cares about this, but I also know that she's not really strong enough to help. So that's fine. Uh, but then Jonathan Bailey, the Prince Fierro, who this whole film has been really outspoken and really confident and really friendly to Elphaba, does nothing.
Yeah.
Even though, like I kept
Yeah.
on expecting him to start dancing with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
because
sort of expecting him to.
his whole thing the whole time is, yeah, I don't really care that you're green. You know,
He's actually like fair play. She's not as follow the
yeah,
crowd.
she's kind of
It's
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he does
Yeah.
nothing as well, and so then it's
So
Gwendola,
yeah.
and that is a good scene. It's a good scene, but I do have these problems with it.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that scene. I did think the section of the film it was in was the part of the film I think they could have cut down a bit. Like
In
it
fact,
was
they
it
could have cut
was
down that
sort of
solo dancing scene. Bloody hell.
it was sort of like the second part of the main sort of school uni
Hmm.
section, where Jonathan Bailey comes in. They do a big dance, and they go to the ball. I don't know, all that stuff. I thought we could have had less of that because it wasn't really moving the story. It was just like, oh, we like balls, we like Jonathan Bailey.
Right, so I want to know what film you were watching. We're like
What
balls.
do you
We're
mean?
like Jonathan Bailey.
Oh
It's
dear.
different. Listen, I was watching a PG film. I don't know.
I didn't mean for it to sound like that. I was watching Bridgerton instead. You got
Oh
me.
no. Oh. Go on.
Um, but yeah, that bit did drag for me. I think when they ended up going to Oz, until they sang "Defying Gravity," I liked that whole bit. It was good.
Yeah, Oz was kind of fun. Uh, yeah, the like exposition song was good. That had what's the face of Dina Menzel and the actress who played Gwendola in the original Broadway show, whose name I do not know, but they were both in Glee.
Oh,
Uh,
were they?
yeah, so Dina Menzel was Rachel Berry's mum in Glee, who
Oh,
coached Vocal Adrenaline. Just a bit of
I've not watched.
fun fact for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, both very very good, very good performers. But that exposition song about the magic being given to the whatever happened, the grimoire that wasn't a grimoire, the grimory.
Yeah,
So the yeah, being based on the famous book, possibly invented by the Cthulhu boy, the grimoire. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think this, like you say, all of this was sort of fine, but not necessarily particularly interesting, in my opinion. It was good, but
Mhm.
yeah. Should we talk a bit about the love triangle?
Um, yeah, all right. I mean, I've not got much to say on it, but yeah,
I say quote unquote love triangle. Um,
yeah. Well,
yeah, do you want to explain a bit how that comes to be?
well, Jonathan Bailey is sort of he becomes a love interest to Elphaba and Gwenda. And he
Understandably
first
so.
sees Elphaba, um, Glinda, sorry. He first sees Elphaba, and Elphaba basically is just quite rude to him. Like, to be fair, he does try with her, and she's just like, she just puts him down. She's just not. She's just like, what are you doing? She's just not interested, or appears to not be. And then Glinda instantly, she sees this handsome, popular guy, and she's like, he's gonna be mine. And
Oh, I
then
love
he's
that
like,
scene. That the first scene when she goes to hit on him.
yeah,
I really enjoyed that bit where she goes.
yeah, that was funny.
He goes, "Oh, I don't." He says, "I don't know what. I don't expect to be here long. I don't see how this is different than any other school I've been to." And she's like, "Well, I'm here." And just like that whole thing where they both are just like, "Oh, I didn't realize that we are both protagonists who are very attractive." So hadn't realized. And as soon as he looks at her, that clocks in his head, and he goes, "Right, well, I guess we are the love interests of this film." And they just both shift into schmooze mode. Like she's already there,
Yeah,
but he just he's like
yeah,
blowing her off, and then immediately just rises to her level of just
yeah,
shallow schmoozing. Oh,
yeah.
I love that scene
And
so
then
much.
that was funny. And then they are like this sort of shallow couple, um, for a while. Because, and then Elphaba and Jonathan Bailey, Fiero, save this animal, and then they're in the woods, and then they have like a they don't kiss,
No.
but they have there's definitely sparks, you know, there's something going on, and then Jonathan, I think Elphaba's like, you're not actually as shallow as you make
Mm.
yourself seem, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm not. And then that's about, and
And
then
he runs off with the cub to save it.
yeah,
For some reason,
and then
she couldn't
that's
join, but whatever.
um, and then when Alphabet is going on the train, um, her and Glinda go to Oz, and then Jonathan Bailey shows up, and he basically doesn't show much interest in Glinda, and he's like, yeah, that basically shows that he is interested in Elphaba. And then they
Mm,
go off, and then that is it. That is the love triangle. I think I covered it all.
yeah. So he just disappears. He's in like a third of this movie,
Yeah,
despite
yeah,
very much being introduced as a main character. That just
yeah,
disappears. He only comes in halfway through and then disappears before the
yeah,
end. Like, why isn't he just in Oz with Gwendola? And
yeah,
then, like, why is the end not him, Gwendola, and Elphaba in the tower, and he
yeah,
has to decide which one to go with? You know, like, why is that not the
yeah.
ending? Given that that's what was being set up. I don't. Apparently, she goes to like live with him when she's flying off. She's flying off to go find Jonathan Bailey.
Oh, is she?
Like, because he's going to help
Fair play.
the animal revolution or something. Supposedly, that's what happens. So fair
Yeah,
enough. But yeah, I don't know. He just felt like a very oddly placed character for me. Of he comes in,
yeah,
he's really friendly to her, and she's, she does her little spiel of, "No, I did not eat grass growing up. I've been like
yeah,
green ever since." And he's just like, he's answering all the things like, "Yeah, neither did I." Or he goes, she goes, "I didn't eat grass growing up." He's like, "Oh, really? I did." He's just got these funny things, and
yeah,
it, yeah, I think a part of me, I she becomes quite unlikable when put next to him, because he's really friendly with her, and at no point does he treat her like everyone else treats her, and she gives him zero credit for it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, she goes, "Oh, you're not as shallow as everyone else." Yeah, we knew that from the first time, because when he tries to run you over, he then starts like flirting with you, even though everyone else hates you. So
yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
I guess the point of that is that Elphaba's being sort of rejected and bullied. She would be incredibly guarded and closed off, and
That's fine,
she's sort of
but
worried that,
yeah,
and she probably has trust issues. She's like, most people she's come across, pretty much everyone until this point she's come across has, judged her for her appearance. This is the first person we've seen in the film, pretty much.
hmm
One of the first anyway who hasn't. So she probably
yeah,
just
her and the
doesn't think he's
witch professor.
uh, yeah, who turns out to be dodgy. So she probably doesn't actually think he's being genuine. She's probably like, oh, is this some kind of a Mickey take? So I think that's probably why she's a
Yeah,
bit,
I no,
yeah.
you are right, you are right. But then there's also another moment when she's letting the animal drink. Where she goes, she's ranting, and he goes, "Does you ever let anyone else speak?"
Oh yeah,
And she
yeah.
shuts up for literally 2 seconds, and as soon as he starts speaking, she goes, "One more thing." And I don't know whether
Oh
that was
yeah.
supposed to be a likable moment, because it's really
No.
unbelievably insufferable. It was like, he's gonna say something nice. I can't remember exactly what he's gonna say, but he's gonna say something like, she's just assuming that he's horrible, and then he's not
Yeah.
horrible, but she doesn't let him say that, because she's so, and it was, I don't know, there was a few moments like that where she's just very unlikable.
Yeah.
But generally, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think it comes across more as being very guarded, and she's very sensible, and
Yeah.
actually is doing work rather than messing around, and
Yeah.
follows the rules. Like, she just generally comes across as quite like a studious, pleasant,
Intelligent.
yeah, just person, and that's cool. And she's,
One
yeah,
thing which One thing which doesn't add up with that is, so we've covered the whole Ariana Grande sets her up for humiliation at a party,
mm-hmm.
and then is like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Has a nice moment with her, and then straight after that gets her to tell like a secret, and then she
Yeah,
tells
that was
her
very
something she's
uncomfortable.
not told anyone, and it's like that doesn't she wouldn't do that.
She
It's
trusts her
like
very quickly, especially when Ariana Grande
yes,
tells her. So she's like, "Oh, we'll trade secrets," and then says, "Me and Fierro are going to get married." I'm like, that's not how this works. You're supposed to say something. What she should have said at that point is, um, I'm terrified that no one really likes me," or something.
yeah,
Like, it should have been something like
yeah.
that.
A real
Or,
insecurity, yeah.
yeah, everyone used to make fun of me when I was a child. One of
Yeah.
those. Like, I used to be ugly. one of those things. That's what that scene should have been. And I simultaneously hate and love that it's not, because it doesn't make sense, right? You're right. It doesn't make sense that Elphaba then shares a very deep thing. And
She
Glenda
wouldn't.
is
No.
nice about it, and that was nice. I thought that might have gone really poorly, but she is
Yeah.
pleasant about it and it's helpful. But I do love it because she's just so insufferably shallow, and it's so good that she doesn't even clock that what she said is like not
Power.
anything. And then she
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
and performatively lays her head down on the bed,
That
like
was really funny.
pretending to cry until Elphaba comes. She was just so the
Yeah.
highlight of this film. She was
Yeah.
just
She
so
was.
good. Just
She
like
was very good.
her like staccato movements as she sort of just does like the hair swish as well. Because
Yeah.
then she in Popular she teaches her how to be pretty or something. She teaches
Yeah.
her that being popular is the most important thing because that's how you get power, basically. Which I guess is sort of one of the points of the film as well. So that was good.
Yeah.
But she teaches her this hair swish, which is so good. Because she's been doing it all film. Like her only actual power is just doing this hair swish that apparently makes everyone swoon,
And
and
it
she just does it
does.
all the time. It's like a whole practiced art. It was so good.
Yeah.
Because then she teaches
Yeah.
Elphaba it, and she's like not as good at it because she's not been doing it for her
No.
whole life. But equally, it's not like that cool when Gwendola does it. Like when she does it, it looks pretty stupid as well.
Yeah. 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 No, that was really fun. Shall we cover the sort of end section of the film,
Yes.
where they meet the wizard?
Mm-hmm.
Also, one thing, and this isn't a problem with the film, but before I saw this film, I saw the trailer for this film because I've been going to cinema quite a lot recently,
Mm-hmm.
and the trailer gives the whole thing away.
Yeah.
Did you see the trailer for the film?
Yeah. Well, this is how I knew that it was going to irritate me before I saw it, because I
But
watched the trailer and the trailer irritated me.
the trailer basically gives the whole plot. Yeah, that really annoyed me that the wizard comes in at the end, yet he's like in the trailer, like a fair bit. The trailer's like, oh, we've got to see the wizard. Oh, we're going to see the wizard. That doesn't happen until like the last third.
Yeah,
And
and we're
so I
supposed
was
to
like,
believe that the wizard's like a good guy the whole
yeah,
film, right?
yeah.
And
But the trailer bait gives away that he's
yeah,
not.
yeah. And so I was like, I would have guessed anyway that they were going to make the wizard the bad guy.
Yeah, it's quite, yeah.
Yeah,
If
but
you're doing it from the perspective of Elphaba, it makes
yeah,
sense.
but they did give it away in the trailer. So you're like, okay, well, so when she's singing "The Wizard and Me," I'm like sort of like singing, if it was The Lion King, if it was Simba, and he's like, "Oh, me and Scar, we're gonna be such friends,"
That'd be quite funny.
sings it
Yeah,
quickly before his father is murdered by
yeah.
Scar. That's sort of what it's like doing. So yeah, it was odd.
But yeah, they go to see the wizard.
We're
Um,
off to see
the
the
wizard
wizard.
does a very small song, probably partly because Jeff Goldblum probably can't sing.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really matter because Jeff Goldblum's playing the Wizard of Oz, so he's very entertaining. Um, and then Michelle Yeoh, the instructor woman, she appears, and then Alphaba does has to show her might, and she does a spell to put the wings on some monkeys, which I'm sort of divided about because it feels like it's a little bit of a ham-fisted way of giving us an origin story for the flying monkeys.
Mm.
But on the other hand, I really like the flying monkeys. So seeing the flying monkeys transform into flying monkeys and then fly about, well, I've still enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. It did feel very biopic. Like if it's
Yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody, or there's a bit where he gets the stick from the mic stand, and that's what Freddie
yeah.
Mercury's. It was a bit of that.
Prequels do that as well,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, I didn't love how when she turns the monkeys into the flying monkeys, you know,
Yeah,
the wizard says, "Oh, he would love it, but he would never say so." And the monkey
yeah,
does looks terrified and doesn't say anything. Why
yeah,
doesn't Elphaba at that point be like, "Why isn't it speaking?"
yeah.
Given that her
Because
whole
other,
thing is, "Oh, well, the animals should be able to speak." Why didn't she ask the
yeah,
monkey herself?
yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
You know, there was just some things like that which I was like, ah. I
Yeah,
get you have to do it to move the plot along, but I feel like you have forgotten a
yeah.
few of your own character
The
beats.
actual scene where they transformed was, as I said, I mean, the way it happened, leading up to it was a little bit ham-fisted,
Mm-hmm.
but the actual transformation, because it felt kind of horrible.
It did. It felt
I
really
did think
horrible.
that. I thought that was cool though. I liked it. It was
Wait,
horrible,
it
but
gives them
like
a
it
good
was
reason
really
to be
cool.
so unpleasant in the Wizard of Oz as well.
Yeah,
These beings
yeah,
just tortured by their own existence.
yeah, yeah. I quite yeah. I think it was a bit ham-fisted, but I also liked it. But then, as I said, I like the flying monkeys. I don't know. I've always liked the flying monkeys. So when the
Mm-hmm.
flying monkeys were in it, I was like, okay, this is all right.
Yeah.
Um,
Um. Yeah. So
go on.
do you want to cap off what happens at the end?
So it is revealed, shock, that the wizard is actually, well, he's sort of like the head of Oz, and he's pretty dodgy. He's been
Mega dodge.
disappearing the animals, and doing all this weird, like, sort of, yeah, disappearing stuff with them, and repressing their rights, because, yeah, he wants a scapegoat to have people to unite against, and when people are united against something, then they're easier to control. Um, and then he's like, Alphaba, you're like super powerful. I've not actually got any powers, but you've got loads. Can you help me? She very obviously is like, no. And Glinda, because she's so superficial, is like, go on.
She's like, oh well, we shouldn't make a fuss. Like,
Oh, we shouldn't
well,
make a fuss.
he is evil.
Um, and then so they run away, and then they send everyone out against them, and it looks like they're sort of making Elphaba the scapegoat now, which makes sense because people don't really like her much anyway. She's probably easy to turn people against. Um, and then they have this whole sequence at the end where it's just defying gravity. They sing defying gravity. Um, Elphaba uses her powers to give herself a broomstick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Glinda gets captured, and then Alphaba flies around singing Defying Gravity for about 20 minutes. And then,
Instead of helping Glinda escape, uh, she
yeah,
just sort of
yeah,
keeps them flying over, giving another verse, buggering off.
no one who has been or was something about Oz is ever going to bring me down. And then she flies off. Um,
Yeah.
and then that is it. That
Yeah.
was wicked.
Yeah. That was wicked. Yeah. All right. Should we give it a rating?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's give it a rating.
All right. Now, I don't know what to do with this because I do feel like it was quite a good film.
Yeah,
It set its beats up well in the beginning. Um, it paid off the things it was supposed to pay off. I didn't like the payoffs, some
yeah.
of them, but it did lay the groundwork. Uh, and it sort of, it all made sense. It was good. There was all the acting was really good. Uh,
It
Cynthia
was. It
Erivo
was
was
enjoyable.
good.
It was quite
Ariana
funny.
Grande was great. Jeff Goldblum was Jeff Goldblum. Wasn't amazing, but you know, was just Jeff Goldblum.
No, he was funny.
Yeah, but he was just
He,
Jeff Goldblum. So Jeff Goldblum
yeah,
is funny, but he was just Jeff Goldblum. There was no second layer.
yeah, I know, but yeah, yeah, you are right.
Yeah. Anyway, Jonathan Bailey, I love, but was a bit not great in this, but
I
fair
think it
enough.
was more his character. He was very charismatic. It's just he didn't have very good
Yeah,
characterization.
Michelle Yeoh was really good. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it was for me it was really good, but I feel like it's worse than Heretic, which means that in theory it must be worse than Paddington.
yeah.
Or I
Or we
enjoyed it
could
less than
rejig
Heretic anyway.
things a bit. Yeah. Well, Heretic was an inherently flawed film, but I really enjoyed it.
I think we're very
Might
biased to
partly
that
be
film.
personal preference though. Yeah, definitely. Um, our B tier is already pretty
I know,
full.
it feels like we should push some of these into A tier.
Um, or Wild Robot into C.
That could be a shout, actually. I think, yeah,
That's what
let's
I've been
start
thinking
off by doing that.
past two. I see, but still, Wild Robot was okay, and I enjoyed it far less than these other three we're considering now. So I think that's where I'd I'd go.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I've moved that. Right. So yeah. I think I've thought about Heretic a lot more than I've thought about Wicked
Yes.
since watching it, you know.
Although I watched Wicked yesterday, so I can't comment.
Yeah,
uh,
it feels rude to put it in a B tier though, because it was like I
it
feel
was
like it's
good.
obnoxious as well to devalue films for being blockbusters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a film
Yeah.
doesn't have to be artsy to be a top tier film. But does that mean that this was a top tier film? I don't know.
Um. Well, it's certainly not S. I would have major major concerns if you put this in S tier, Noah.
Yeah, well, no.
Um.
Be honest, S wasn't
But
really on the cards for this.
no. But are you
If now,
thinking? Are
if it
you
was just Ariana Grande doing that,
Regina George thing?
would be sick. I would have been a great film.
Yeah.
Maybe S tier. If it was
Okay.
Kermit the Frog as Elphaba and Miss Piggy as Gwendola,
And
also might
Michael
have been
Caine
an
as
S
the
tier.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Don't you see, Mister Witch? Don't you see, Kermit? These animals need to stop talking.
Yeah.
But the animals must talk. I thought you were supposed to be the
Um.
wizard.
So are you tempted by A tier for Wicked then?
No, it can't. I am. I am tempted. That's a lie. I
No.
am tempted by A
Yeah.
tier,
Well,
but it can't. I don't know.
I've got I sort of I've got personal biases against musical theatre, but then I think that's unfair. So sort of I don't want that to get into my way of the judgment of it. Um, Personally, I think I like Heretic and Paddington more. As a film, I don't know, Wicked is good. I
I
think
think Wicked is better than Paddington.
yeah, do we need to rejig it? Do we need Paddington to lower, Heretic above Paddington, and then we can consider Wicked and Heretic?
We could put Heretic and Wicked in A tier.
Yeah,
Hmm?
but then Heretic's flawed, but it's fun.
Heretic is flawed. That's the thing.
Heretic's flawed.
This is the problem. I think is Wicked. We're both a bit biased against. Me
Yeah,
for I'm holding things
we've got
against it, which it shouldn't have held against it realistically. Like it is
Heretic. We're
technically connected to the
biased.
Wizard of Oz universe, but is obviously its own thing.
Yeah,
And then Heretic for some
Heretic. We're
reason we just both
biased
love.
towards. We just like it. Well, it was really fun to talk about, and yeah, it's yeah. Shall we do Heretic and Wicked in A?
I feel like we should, yeah. Even though
Yeah.
is Heretic an A tier film?
No,
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 it's
it's
not.
not. But then if we have Heretic in B, then it's just Wicked in A. But Wicked was good, so
Right, I think Wicked. Right. Biases aside, Wicked should be higher than Heretic. Right.
yeah,
Like I think we both feel that, even if we don't like it.
yeah. So then Heretic in B again, back to B,
I think
but
Heretic
above
back to B.
Paddington. Yeah, I like it though.
But it is.
I like seeing Hugh there in A, but yeah, it is flawed. I think my heart probably works best if Heretic. Yeah, Heretic back in B. I think.
Mm, right, but definitely
Yeah,
above Paddington.
yeah.
Even though we put it below Paddington last week, and that's when we were
He did.
reviewing it.
Yeah, yeah. Until now, Paddington has been our highest.
It feels dirty putting.
Look what's
Are we
happened
just
to
are
the
we
poor
just
bear.
giving it money? Are we just valuing that it had a good budget and good special effects? I don't know. Like, are we just being tricked into thinking
They were
it was an
fine
A tier film?
special effects.
No, but like, are we being tricked
Like,
because it was just like because it's obviously like a film of the year kind of film?
yeah.
Are we giving it extra props that we didn't give to like Megalopolis?
Oh, come on,
Yeah,
Megalopolis.
no, I'm not saying it should be E, but like
Yeah,
it made me really uncomfortable the first 20 minutes with just how it looked. You know what I mean?
yeah, it didn't look great.
There's something about it that was really off-putting. I mean,
So
apart
then
from the fact Ariana
would
Grande looks ill in it, there
yeah.
was something a bit off-putting about, you know? And some of the singing was a bit ropey, and the
Most of the
tones were a
singing,
bit jumbled.
I think for this type of sort of adaptation of a musical, the singing wasn't bad. I think it was pretty good. So then would you move that back down to B?
I don't
Then
know.
we've got
I don't know.
because we had three Bs. I think three Bs is okay.
I think maybe I kind of want to put it under Heretic again. I don't know. I just the more I think about it, the more I think I'm being biased into thinking it's good because
Yeah, everyone
it
likes it.
yeah exactly because it's like
Yeah,
it's just it had enough money to be well made.
yeah,
You know what I
it
mean?
did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's annoying that it was a two-parter. That was also
Mm,
we didn't really talk about it, but that's silly. It's longer than the stage show.
yeah.
Why is it a two-parter?
I did say it was longer than the stage
You
show and
did
it
at the beginning.
dragged. Yeah,
It's just so we could have her
it's
dancing on her own for 5 more minutes. It's why there's two
which bit?
parts.
Oh, the bit where she was in
Yeah.
the club. Um, weird musical theatre Oz Club. I don't want to go there.
No.
That looked like an awful time. Um, even if Jonathan Bailey seduced me into going, still
Well, yeah, I
want to
wouldn't want to
go.
go with Jonathan Bailey. He'd steal all the ladies, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, he's
Model looker.
yeah, but he is gay in real life, so he wouldn't actually.
Is he?
You know, they'd still fawn over him, but
Crazy.
he wouldn't be.
I would happily go there.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, are we? Yeah. This
Do you
is
know what
the
I mean? Like that
hardest.
looking at that feels wrong. But maybe that's
Yeah.
just I
So
feel like as film critics we should be we should be like, ooh, this low detritus of a film.
yeah, because it wasn't the best looking film ever. In fact, I didn't really like how it looked. So why is it sitting in our A
Like we've
tier?
just not commented. I was ragging it for the first like 40 minutes of this podcast, and somehow it's ended up being the best film, even though we
Yeah.
ragged it significantly less than Paddington.
Okay, right. That then we can't. We will continue until we've sorted this. Okay, yeah, you're right. That's not right. Maybe Wicked shouldn't be stood up there in A.
But then I feel like I would watch it. I would watch it again before I'd watch Paddington again. But it's really long.
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
think I
it
would
is
watch.
really long.
I think I would watch the. I think I would watch the popular scene. I think that's what's swaying me. Is
Because that was really good to see.
yeah, from when they become friends to the end of popular,
Yeah.
which is only like a 15-minute scene.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the whole film, and so I don't know. I think that's swaying me more than anything else, and that's not a good. One scene is not enough to make a movie.
No. Well. One scene's not enough for A.
No,
So I think we put it down. We put it down a peg.
but then is it better than these two?
Is it? I mean,
So okay, let's
think
look at it this way. If we compare Hugh Grant and Ariana Grande as the two standouts,
yeah.
which was better?
Well, again, personal biases. Ariana Grande was so good. It was really, really funny. Um, but I love, you
So
know
is
how I
Hugh
feel
Grant.
about. Yeah, like he just wins me over every time. Um,
This is hard. This is the hardest one we've had to do yet.
Heretic was very good. I thought Heretic, the cinematography, the way it was filmed,
Was
was
better than
very
this film.
good.
Yeah.
A lot better, way better.
I,
I thought it had interesting, thought-provoking ideas, and Hugh Grant was very charming.
I think the
It
supporting
fell
cast is
apart
better
a
than
bit.
Heretic.
Oh,
Sister
yeah.
Paxton and
Well, the
Sister the
Mormons
other
are
one
great.
are
Yeah, they were
both better
great.
than Elf. Okay, I also need
Yeah.
to correct in my head that Elphaba is not supporting cast.
She is the main
She is the
character.
protagonist.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it
She
like
was
this.
good.
Elphaba was worse than Hugh Grant,
Yeah.
right? She was good. She had some moving moments. Not as good
Then
as Hugh
have you
Grant.
got and then are you comparing Sister Paxton
That's Sister Paxton has to be Gwendola,
Mr.
right?
Reed? Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I think
Uh
Ariana Grande wins that.
they were both good though. I thought
They
Sister
were,
Paxton was great.
and no, I totally
Yeah.
agree. But Ariana Grande
But
was better.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then Jonathan Bailey versus Sister What's Her Face.
Well, Sister What's Her Face was a far better characterized
Yeah.
character.
I think she
So
had a more consistent character as well, and had a.
and a more consistent
She
character.
didn't have an arc because she died, but I
Well, she
think
had an arc until she died. It
his
wasn't
arc
fully
didn't make
resolved.
any sense, which we also
Yeah,
didn't talk about.
yeah, we didn't talk about that, but oh
I'm
well.
swayed by too many of my petty grievances into not talking about the significant problems with this film. I think what we're concluding is that Heretic is a better film.
Is that what?
I think we've concluded that Heretic's a better film.
Oh, actually, yeah. You know what? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's leave it at that.
But then is it worse than
Poor,
Paddington?
poor Paddington sitting there at the end of B. You know what? He's gonna give us a hard stare for this, I think.
Yes.
We've forgotten what's important in life,
We have
Noah.
forgotten what's important. And on that basis, should it. Oh.
Oh, but this was bigger in spectacle. It was grander. It was more ambitious
And I
than
think it
Paddington
was a
Bear.
more interesting story as well than
Okay,
Paddington.
okay, yeah.
I think
We'll
Paddington
keep
was
it
quite dull, story wise.
the
Like if I
story.
described the story, you'd go, I don't really care. Like
Yeah,
we talked about, it was made up by lots of good moments, but it wasn't
it was a generic
anything
story, but
remarkable.
it was funny. Yeah.
Whereas
Okay.
Wicked, also not a super original story, but more interesting.
There were interesting stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think. Also, one thing can I request?
Mm-hmm.
Can in the C tier, can Wild Robot be
Yes, higher than Lee.
switched?
Yeah.
It's definitely yeah.
Yeah.
And then Megalopolis can
Can go down to F.
it's a great whole new tier. Megalopolis is one where the more I think about it, the more it consolidates how bad it was. But yeah, okay.
Right.
I think that
Yeah,
stays.
I do love all of this debate around these five. I mean, not very much debate right here, but still enough debate. You know, we've done some shifting around. Not once has Megalopolis been touched, and never will be touched.
Yeah, literally in the whole time. Yeah,
El
all of these films,
Garbaggio.
Megalopolis,
Yeah.
unless and I hope this isn't the case, just because we'll have to sit through it. We have a film in which it is sort of close
Yeah,
as
that'd
to
be
which
pretty
is
rough.
worse between. Yeah, and then we have to create F tier
Just to put
or one of
Megalopolis
them.
in, so then something can go in A tier. So we've
Yeah,
got to wait until we need to put something in E tier, so then we'll make F tier for Megalopolis. Okay,
yeah,
that all
right.
sounds good. And as we look to the west, that was Wicked.